All right. Thank you for your patience. So the outcomes for this week is we're going to continue talking about flourishing. Flourishing is going to be a key concept throughout this module. Become familiar with it. We're going to look at flourishing in relationships and community. We're going to define community. We're going to look at community psychology. That you will find in the week 2 lessons. You're going to define a system. This is going to be relevant to assessment 1. You're going to look at systems theory, also relevant to assessment 1. How systems contribute to flourishing, also relevant to assessment 1. And you're going to, in your lessons tab, there is a case study which I have prepared for you. So it's important that you do.
Sorry, Taryn.
Yes.
We're struggling to hear you a bit.
As in volume? Can you hear me now? Okay. Can you hear?
No, not really.
And now?
You're cutting like in and out.
Audio settings. It shows I'm on here. Still nothing?
Better.
Better? Okay.
It's better now.
Continuing through the crisis. So I want to give you a tip, guys. You can already start your assessment 1 by starting your draft piece on that which I'm highlighting. So we already know that in assessment 1, you need to be able to define a system, and you need to be able to tell me how a system contributes to flourishing. So that's why notes becomes very key during lectures. So do you remember what it means to flourish? Anybody? Who was here last week and remembers what it means to flourish?
Does it not mean like to grow?
Absolutely, Sarah. Yes, to grow. Does it mean that we don't have challenges? Are we able to flourish in the midst of challenges?
Yes.
Yes, we are. Yes, Jacqueline. To become the best. Yes, to become the best that we can be.
To overcome your challenges, especially during like COVID, when everyone's stuck at home, can't interact, blah, blah, blah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Like everyone's issue last year.
Yes. So would you say that I'm flourishing right now despite my technical challenges? And I've had them, I have had them, people, I have had them all week. I have to say to you, prior to this lecture, my PowerPoints were set up and it automatically added 1,000 blank slides. So that's what I was doing this morning. But we persevered despite, right? So flourishing, according to Seligman, is the 5 criteria. He believes that in order for us to have a fulfilled life and experience well-being, irrespective of the challenges we are going through, we need to engage in positive emotion, positive relationships. We have to have meaning in our lives, and we have to have those engagements and activities that bring us a sense of joy. So in which of these areas do you think that you flourished this week? And in which did you not? You don't have to answer that question now. But when you reflect on that question, this is applicable to assessment 1. So after this lecture, go down and make some notes, and then you've already begun your assessment. Okay, so what is the aim of counseling and life skills? Is it merely to be okay, or to make people feel okay? Or is it to create a space for them to feel fantastic? Is it a space where you're able to help someone flourish? And I think at this stage of the game, if you've read Seligman, if you've done last week's lecture, if you've looked at the metaphor of the acorn, no, it is no longer enough for us as helpers to just make people feel okay. It's not okay for people to survive. When you ask someone, how are you doing? I am surviving. No. We want to help people thrive. But do challenges and emotions not need to be stabilized in order to experience flourishing? Is that what you're asking, Andrea? Yes? Can you clarify, Andrea? You asked a question.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I am.
No, to clarify is a client or a patient can only flourish if they have a challenge in their lives that's been stabilized first. You would have to stabilize their emotions before you can. Sometimes you really are only just getting a person to be able to survive, depending on what they're coming through or coming out of.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what does Seligman say about that?
So I would say you go, sorry to interrupt, you would go from
No,
your
go
challenges to surviving and then to flourish.
Okay. But what we are saying is that it is still possible to find joy and meaning despite those challenges. And so, no, we're not asking people not to feel the darkness and the sadness, because that's a process of counseling. So this, what I'm speaking about now is not it's not the starting point. You will learn the counseling skills of empathy and unconditional positive God and listening skills that goes hand in hand so that we move towards flourishing, if that makes sense. So no, it would be completely disrespectful to have a client walk in and go, okay, now it's flourishing. It's about flourishing. But if someone walked in and was struggling with grief, perhaps flourishing to them was just the fact that they showed up for that appointment. That being there was a space of meaning, that I was able to get up today, brush my teeth, and take my next breath. So in the case study that you'll get for one of the assessments, it asks you have to use all of the counseling skills of listening to someone and the dark emotions with the intent of enhancing PERMA. So you say life is so terrible, but is there a friend that you can have coffee with that could perhaps make the situation a little bit bearable? Wonderful. There we've already identified a positive relationship.
Small victories.
So absolutely, but it's a very good question. Thank you. I'm just happy that we're flowing. Okay. So flourishing in the midst of good and bad. So what Seligman is saying is that research is showing that people do not thrive only when good things are happening. So what sets those people aside who are able to thrive despite bad things happening? Think of yourself. What is it inside of you? Think of PERMA. What is it that allows you to sit here today on a Zoom call when you've just had an argument with a colleague, or you're stressing about how you're going to pay your fees, or there's a relationship that you're in conflict with? What allows you to still show up here today?
Positive perspective.
A shift in our mindsets. Yes, flourishing should be our end goal. Different perspectives? Because you've decided to see through the lens of optimism. You've decided to see through the lens of hope. You understand that being here helps me to reach my purpose in this life. And so this gives you meaning. So it doesn't mean that everything's okay after this Zoom lecture, but it means that I've been able to sit here and engage despite. Go ahead, Nika. Nika and Jacqueline?
Sorry. Yeah, it's interesting. In my personal experience, quite recently-ish, what I realized was both my parents fell very ill with COVID. And it was strange when you said what happened, something negative happens. I realized I was going into this complete thrive of over-enthusiasm to make lists and take control, and I think to the irritation of the rest of the family. But it was actually quite an amazing experience. It happened exactly a year ago as well, when same story with my dad, that I was able to actually fly up and making lists. I really felt like I was I don't know how to say it differently than I was high. I was really high on this going in and interfering and helping and making plans and drawing lists and sketches, and it was just quite an amazing experience. I think it's a coping mechanism. We're still investigating there, but it was the first time that I really noticed it about myself, and it was quite interesting.
But it's something that helped you get through a very trying time.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. I think it was to close. I think it was, if you really care, I think your mind will shift.
Okay. Okay. So you found something that allows you, when you're active and helping, that helps you. Wonderful. So
Yeah, absolutely.
So then you speak right into the quote here, which says happiness is not the absence of the problem. You had the problem, but it's the ability to deal with them.
That's what I realized. It's very strange. I was happier with that than if there's no problems.
Thank you, Nika. It was Jacqueline, I think, that put up her hand.
No, I'm good. Sorry,
You're
from
good.
earlier.
No problem.
Yeah, sorry.
No problem. Okay. So I think perhaps, that's the old idea of psychology, that if there are challenges, you can't be happy. Oh my. Then what are we doing in this world that is filled with challenges every day? So as helpers, we really need to be asking ourselves the question, is it enough for you? It's not enough for me. Is it enough for counselors and educators just to fix bad things that happen? Is it enough for us to stop people from being depressed? Or should we work towards people being happy? And happy is a very general word. It can be debated ad nauseum. Is it enough for us to stop people from feeling lonely? Or should we work towards them feeling connected and fulfilled? So if you do solution-focused brief therapy, someone says to you, I'm feeling so sad and lonely. The question is, well, what would you like to feel instead of that? Because it's not just about stopping the loneliness and handing you a pill and say, go for a walk. What would you like to feel? Well, I'd like to feel joy. And so then we work to how is it that you can experience more joy in your life? Yes, Nika and Jacqueline and Sky, go ahead in that order.
Mine is a previous hands up, sorry.
Okay.
Isn't it like, you can't always get them to feel, happy. So wouldn't content be just as good?
Yes,
you can at least get them to feel that.
Yes, that's why I think happy is such a loaded word, and it has many layers. I think happy is a little bit too simplistic. I like the word joy or satisfaction.
Yeah, satisfaction.
Yes.
Be satisfied or satisfied.
Yes. Which is why it's so important to listen to your client's words. There's a skill called echoing words. So listen to your client's words. If your client says, I want to be happy, well, what does that mean for you? Well, I want more joy, or I want to be excited. So you would have to tap into what the word your client is using, and you'll learn about that at a later stage. Yes, Jacqueline, is that an old hand? Okay.
Old hand from now.
Okay. So the goal of human life is not just to be okay. The goal of human life is to have life. It's not just to get by. How many people can you mention right now? Or perhaps it's yourself, where you are just okay, where you are just getting by. And so as that tree who's not able to grow and develop with all the other players in the ecosystem, so too are you not able, and your clients are not able, we are just not able to flourish on our own. So you are in a module called Life Skills and Counseling. You are on a WhatsApp group, you are on a Zoom lecture. And I want to encourage you to lean on each other, to ask the questions, to have the difficult conversations, to engage in the activities, because it is in this online relationship that we are going to be able to connect, find meaning, find positive emotion. Not always, there'll be days we'll be frustrated. But this is what I've realized, that connectivity and relationship is not dependent on geographical location, that we can develop relationships online in this space. And so if you're struggling to connect, come and talk to me. Ask yourself, why am I struggling to connect? Don't be afraid to ask a question. There is no stupid question. Don't be afraid to share vulnerable thought. Brené Brown says that vulnerability is the birthplace of healing. And so none of us are perfect. We come to this space with our strengths and our weaknesses, and with me, my technical disabilities. But we can still build relationship in all the beauty that make us human. So now I'm going to ask you to be vulnerable. You can either type it in the chat, or you can tell us. I want you to share one of your strengths. We all have a strength. And one area of weakness that you are working on at the moment. Some you might just need to take a minute or two to think about that. But when you're ready, you can type it or you can speak it. Your strength is self-doubt. Would that be your, oh, okay. Yes. All right. And please read everybody, strength, tedious. Okay, and you're working on. Thank you for that vulnerability. Jacqueline, I've watched someone in my class a few years ago turn that weakness into a powerful strength of presenting in front of the class.
Not in front of the class, but in front of 4,000 students.
Okay, that can be extremely intimidating.
It gets a bit daunting.
So everyone, I see a lot of strengths.
Yes.
I see a lot of strengths. Weaknesses, what are you working on? Strong mindset. Yes, compassion. What are those things that you're working on, guys? So for me, my weakness is impatience. I'm working on being more patient, not being comfortable. Overthinking, yes, that's one of mine as well. Thank you so much. So we all can acknowledge that none of us are perfect. And if none of us are perfect, then surely those that we are in relationship are not perfect either. Which allows us then to have more compassion for our fellow human beings as we all continue to work on those things that hold us back. And as a helper, your prime goal is not going to be to help somebody else. Your prime goal is your commitment to your own personal development. You have a responsibility. If you are promoting hope and restoration and healing and flourishing, you better be working on your own hope and restoration, healing and flourishing. Otherwise, you're not being a genuine helper. You're being inauthentic. Did somebody have a hand up? So just some wonderful quotes that I love when it comes to weaknesses and strengths. Winners evaluate themselves in a positive manner. So we have to be able to look ourselves in the mirror and not be afraid to look at those areas that we need to work on. So we look at our strengths, but okay, this is an area that I need to work on. A person who exhibits both positive and negative qualities, strengths and weaknesses is not flawed, is what we've been told. No, you are complete, because perfection does not lie in your human body. You are imperfect and you'll always be imperfect as a mere mortal. But what you can do is your commitments to your own personal process of transformation. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck and you're going to stay the same, and you're going to be 80 years old and you're going to look back and say, well, what have I done? Your greatest accomplishment is not the degree you're going to get here. Your greatest accomplishment is your own personal transformation. So we all come unique with packages of strengths and weaknesses, and inside of all those strengths and weaknesses, there is a precious gift inside of all of us that you are meant to deliver to the world. So don't allow those things that you are still working on. Someone said in their introduction, I first have to take care of myself or fix myself before I can help. Well, then you'd never help anybody, right? If we focused on fixing ourselves first. So what is a system? Oh, they have given you the answer. What is a system? When you think of a system, what comes to mind for those who didn't see the answer? Does nothing come to mind when you think of a system? Okay, and I'll have to give you the answer. So a system, according to the dictionary defined, is really a set of things that are working together, interconnecting to form this complete whole. It sounds complicated, but it really is not. Okay, and it consists of various subsystems that are related and they interact with each other. So perhaps an example of a system that you could most relate to would be the family system. Okay, so there's a mother and a father, it's the hierarchy, and then you have the siblings, and this forms what we call a family system. Okay, now Bowen, you don't have to know it for this course, but if you go on to do an honors level in psychology, you'll be introduced to Murray Bowen, who has what's called a family systems theory, where he understands the family system in what he calls a family systems theory. So he believes that our prime role, okay, is differentiation of self. So what does that mean? That means that as we grow up, we need to, the natural course of our life and our growth should be a process of freeing ourselves from our family system so that we can become individuals with our own identity. So that's something I have to remind myself when I try to impose some of my ideas onto my son, that he is an individual and he's at an adolescent stage where the prime focus is identity versus confusion. And so he is now wrestling with who am I? Who am I outside of my family? Who am I in relation to my peers? Who am I in relation to the world? So differentiation of self is key. It is very important. And if we're not able to do that, we're going to have many struggles and challenges in this life. So Bowen talks about something called triangles that are formed in the family, where you have two people, perhaps a mother and a father, and their relationship is under severe stress and conflict. And so they incorporate a third person, which stabilizes and decreases some of that animosity and conflict. So an example of that would perhaps be one of the spouses decide to have an affair. So you have that triangle, and that's their way of coping with the stress. Or they incorporate their child, and it's a matter of trying to get the child to take sides with either parent, very, very unhealthy. Emotional cutoff, where you have a husband and a wife, and the husband he's present, he's physically present, but he's not engaging. He is emotionally cut off. So we understand, if you have someone coming for couples therapy and you say there's a triangle, you begin to understand the family in relation to their system. I looked at this this week. Sherry's a Dubai princess, and she has been prevented by her father, the Sheikh of Dubai, from self-differentiation due to her family and cultural system. So because she's not allowed to be herself, to have her own dreams, to have her own values, to travel, to study, to have friends that she chooses to have, she then went on an escape mission in 2019, and she was recaptured by her father and his military, and she is now being in seclusion, trapped as a hostage. And her friends right now are trying to get her story out to the world, out to the United Nations. And at its very core, in all the chaos and the drama of this story, it's because her father has prevented her from differentiating herself. And so when you look at her escape and you go, oh my word, why has she escaped? Well, we cannot understand her escape unless we look at the family system that she has grown up in. So systems theory in a nutshell, guys, is that we all are in this web of relationship, and it's in relationship that you find yourself. Think of your first romantic relationship. What was that like? You realize, oh my word, I think I'm a little bit jealous. Oh my word, I think I'm judgmental. Oh my word, I think I'm controlling. It's in relationship, particularly romantic relationship, that all of our stuff, the dark side, comes out. But we cannot find ourselves if we're not within relationship. It's in relationship, in people and places, that you will find your greatest purpose, weakness, strength, pain, and joy. You've been called to a profession that demands relationship. You cannot do it without being in relationship. So think for a moment about these questions. Who's a part of your life right now? What are they adding to your life? What are they taking away from your life? Remember, not everyone who is in your life is adding value. Do you make space in your life for people to have the greatest possible impact on you? My biggest lesson in this life is that I had to learn to connect with people who knew more than me, who were perhaps more personally developed than me, people who had the courage to tell me what I needed to hear, not what I wanted to hear. Because when we are just with those people who tell us what we want to hear and it's safe and we can stay stuck, then we don't grow. Do you as yourself make a conscious effort to have a positive impact on other people's lives? And what could you do starting today to make the world a better place for people to live in? Do you have any thoughts at this stage before I continue? What is this? What is it? Is it exciting?
Hi,
Yes, Nika, go ahead.
I'm going to interrupt. Sorry, I battle with the hands up thing. I'll lose my screen.
You're not, Nika, you're not interrupting. You're engaging. Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you, Taryn. For me, I'm on a huge mission to get positive parenting out into the world. I do think if our relationships or the idea of relationships and things are defined within the first 5 years of our lives, ideally, by a caregiver or parent or whomever is in communicating to a toddler, I honestly, truly believe we can change societies with that. And,
yes.
And for me, I think in engaging with anybody, all of that's defined in the beginning. If you never felt safe communicating, you will
Yes,
stop.
yes,
as a
yes,
child.
Nika. Yes, Nika. I have
And,
goosebumps all over my body. Yes.
that's the reason I'm studying this. I want to
Right.
do play therapy eventually. I
Yes.
believe we can change by knowing how to speak to children.
And absolutely, thank you for sharing. And it's severely lacking in our society is the family therapy. So I did my field work at a school, and I had to counsel students. And I would say to you that 99% of the challenges was familially rooted. And so it was it was the saddest thing to work with a child outside of their family system, not being able to reach a mother and a father, and then send them back into that system.
Yeah.
And so please go ahead and
There's no
follow
connection.
Yeah.
There's no connection theories out there. Parents think we just wing it, it comes natural. And
Oh no.
That belief must be changed.
No, and bless the parents' heart, because I buy books. My faith. Someone, can you please mute your mic? I think it's Justine. Is that we really cannot blame it on these parents who are struggling just to put a potato on the table. Is now let me work on my personal development is the last thing on their head. So there is the system is so damaged. We need to look at all of those subsystems. We need to look at poverty. We need to look at geographical location.
No, I agree.
So it's, and particularly in a society that has come from segregation, our history makes our issues a little bit more complex. Justine, can you please mute your microphone? Yeah. So,
I think just as a last note, even with there's 3 or 4 or 5
No, I
tips
don't
that you
feel
can
like
share.
it. I was at PAB now getting stuff for that baby thing. So I don't feel like going there. I'm like on so many steps,
Justine,
I'm
I'm just
tired.
going to see if I can mute her. Okay, so everything works. Yeah, sorry, Nika, go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, Taryn. So I agree with you 100%. Poverty plays a huge role, and all of these things play a huge role. There's 3 or 4 or 5 tips that you can give somebody that's got nothing to do with, with even self-development. I'm running a nanny group
Wow.
in my area, where the nannies spend most of the time with the toddlers, and the nannies they cannot believe just 2 or 3 or 4 tips what a difference it's made to the behavior of little ones. And that's got nothing to do with your geographical, nothing. It's purely somebody saying, have you tried this?
Yes,
And that's it, in communication.
Yes. So someone taking the time.
But you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's huge challenges out there. It's just, for me, it's a huge passion for me.
Lots of work. And so please go. I think you're going to enjoy the section in the week 2 lessons on community psychology and how we can impact in Thailand. Thank you for sharing, Jacqueline. Tantas Wasiala, please forgive me if I don't say your name correctly. So there's a lot of work for us to do. So everything is connected, all connected to a network that affects our entire lives. We don't have to even think about the question, what has happened due to load shedding? What has happened to the world due to the COVID-19 pandemic? Our systems have been, it's just a chaotic mess. And we're trying to find meaning. We are trying to, I think people are not even focused on meaning. They really are focused on breathing. They are focused on eating their next meal. They are focused on earning a salary. And do you see how the family system, if we look at the stats for South Africa, in terms of how abuse increased, domestic violence increased during lockdown. So everything is connected, everything. And we learned this the very hard way during the COVID-19 pandemic. And we still are. So I've just said what I wanted to say here, everything is connected. It's you, your family, it's your community, it's your peers right now at Cornerstone. So think for a moment as we go to a break. A 10-minute break, if that's in order, you can come back. I want you to think about how your family, as you can take a little screenshot, Think of how your family has affected your beliefs. Don't tell me it has not. It has, even unconsciously, subconsciously. Think of how skills and resources that your friends have made a difference in your life, to what you do, to how you do it. Think of how the Cornerstone community has affected you. And then I'm going to ask feedback on number 4. Think of how every lecture thus far has impacted you. Have you taken a little video? What do you call it? A photo. Have you taken a photo?
Yes. Taryn,
Go ahead.
I just wanted to let you know that Michelle is going to go pick up her kids, so I don't think she'll be able to join us for the
No
next session.
problem, I completely understand. I am a mom too, absolutely. So thank you guys. So can we please be back at 1:30 with some of your reflections? 1:30 via the same link.
Hi, Taryn.
Yes, Michelle?
How long will the second session be?
Not too long. If you can't, I think about 30, if not less, depending on discussion. There's been robust discussion, which I enjoy. If you cannot make it, it will be recorded.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, see you all at 1:30. Let me figure out how to stop recording.